I, 34 male, have always been the reliable one in my friend group. Steady job, savings ticking along, enough to be comfortable anyway. My best friend since college, Tiffany, well, she's more of a free spirit, which often translates to her being perpetually short on cash. Over the years, I've spotted her here and there, covered a dinner bill when her car declined, lent her a few hundred for a can't-miss opportunity. I figured it even out in the long run, and honestly, I didn't track it closely. Big mistake, clearly. Tiffany recently got engaged to Chad. Seemed okay, a bit vanilla, but he made her happy. The wedding planning kicked off like a rocket, and her Pinterest boards looked like a royal decree. Destination venue, a dress that probably cost more than my car, the whole shebang. I was genuinely happy for her, until about a month ago. We were grabbing lunch, my treat, as usual, and she steered the conversation towards finances. So, she began, twirling a lock of her expensively highlighted hair. You know how well you're doing. Here it comes, I thought. And Chad and I are, starting out. It would be such a huge help if you could, contribute a significant chunk to the wedding. You have it to spare, right? My jaw almost dropped into my salad. Tiffany, are you serious? That's a lot to ask. She gave me her best puppy dog eyes. But you're my best friend, and you always help me out. Think of it as an investment in my future happiness. An investment of thousands of dollars in a wedding I have no say in, I replied, trying to keep my voice even. Weddings are usually the couple's responsibility. Oh, don't be such a stickler for tradition, she waved dismissively. Your family's just you and mine, while they're tapped out. Besides, she leaned closer, like we were sharing some juicy secret. You'll get a +1, and all the cake you can eat. The sheer entitlement was breathtaking. I took a deep breath. Tiffany, I'm not in a position to just hand over a large sum for your wedding. Her face tightened. So what? You just want to let her best friend have a budget wedding. A little alarm bell went off in my head. This wasn't just about a casual request. It was an expectation. A deeply ingrained one, it seemed. That's when a nagging feeling about all those small favors started to solidify into something more concrete. That lunch left a bad taste in my mouth, worse than the slightly burnt panini. I went home and started digging. Back through old texts. Hey, can you spot me for this concert ticket? I'll pay you back next week. Ugh, my car insurance is due. Any chance you could lend me a couple of hundred? Bank transfers with vague descriptions. Even a few hastily scribbled notes on the back of receipts. It took a while, but I pieced it together. Over the past 7 years, those small favors and loans added up to a staggering $7,853.62. I was honestly shocked. I knew I'd helped her out, but I hadn't realized the cumulative total was so high. It was like a slow drip that had filled a bucket without me really noticing. I meticulously documented everything in a spreadsheet, dates, amounts, and a brief description where possible. Then, I drafted a polite but firm email. Hi, Tiffany. Following our recent conversation, I've compiled a record of outstanding balances. The total amounts to $7,853.62. Please review at your convenience. I would appreciate it if we could discuss a repayment plan within the next 30 days. Wishing you both all the best with the wedding preparations. I hesitated for a moment before hitting send. I knew this would cause a storm, but the level of entitlement she displayed at lunch had flipped a switch in me. Enough was enough. The silence that followed was thick with anticipation. About 18 hours later, my phone buzzed incessantly. It was Tiffany. The texts were a rapid-fire explosion of disbelief and anger. Are you kidding me? Followed by a string of angry face emojis and question marks. I replied simply, it's a record of the money you owe me, Tiffany. The call started immediately after. I screened the first few, listening to the furious voicemails. Accusations of betrayal, of ruining her happiness, the classic, I can't believe you're doing this to me. Finally, I answered one. Her voice was high-pitched and trembling with rage. How could you? After all these years, I thought you were my friend. I am your friend, Tiffany. That's why I'm addressing this now. Friends don't consistently borrow significant amounts of money without a plan to repay. But the wedding, this is going to cause so much stress. Perhaps you should have considered the financial implications of your wedding plans before assuming I would foot the bill, I said, my voice calm despite the knot in my stomach. Then came the cavalry. Her older sister, Melanie, called, her tone condescending. Tiffany is under a lot of pressure right now. Can't you just let this go? I politely explained that my own financial well-being was also important. Even Chad sent a text. This one laced with a martyr complex. So much for friendship when things get tough. I rolled my eyes so hard I almost saw my brain. Tough. He wasn't the one facing a sudden demand for thousands of dollars. I stood my ground. The spreadsheet was sent. The 30-day clock was ticking. The past few days have been a masterclass in avoiding responsibility. Tiffany has deployed every emotional tactic in her arsenal. Tears that could fill a swimming pool, guilt trips that would make a therapist raise an eyebrow, and enlisting mutual acquaintances to try and sway me. She showed up at my office during my lunch break, looking like a storm cloud in a fancy dress. Please, Liam, she begged, using my full name for maximum dramatic effect. You're going to make me have a tacky, budget wedding. Is that what you want everyone to think of me? I stepped out of the office lobby with her. Tiffany, I want you to acknowledge the debt you owe me. But I don't have that kind of money lying around. The deposits, the dress alterations. Exactly. Expenses you planned based on the assumption that I would pay for a large portion of them. The manipulation continued. Every shared memory, every time I'd offered a shoulder to cry on, was dredged up and weaponized. Remember when my hamster died and you stayed up all night with me? Is this how you repay me? Her dad even called, his voice gruff and accusatory. Young man, family sticks together. You should be supporting Tiffany right now. I explained that while I valued friendship, it didn't equate to unlimited financial liability. The level of delusion reached a new high when Tiffany forwarded me a detailed invoice from a high-end bakery for a multi-tiered cake shaped like a swan. Underneath, she'd typed, "See, this is non-negotiable. Surely you can appreciate the artistry." Appreciate it? Yes. Pay for it? Absolutely not. What truly grated on my nerves was the complete lack of ownership. It was as if the money I'd lent her had simply evaporated into thin air, irrelevant in the face of her wedding dreams. Chad, in his own quiet, entitled way, started making pointed comments on social media about fair-weather friends. Apparently, my refusal to bankroll their wedding made me a terrible person. Interestingly, a couple of our closer friends, people who've witnessed Tiffany's financial habits firsthand, have sent me private messages of support. "You go, Liam," one wrote. "She's done this kind of thing before." It was a small comfort amidst the drama. The 30-day mark is fast approaching. I have a sinking feeling this isn't over yet. The 30 days are up. Unsurprisingly, not a single penny from Tiffany. Just a barrage of increasingly frantic messages and tearful phone calls. "Liam, please. You're ruining everything," she sobbed during our last conversation. "The venue is threatening to cancel. Chad is beside himself." "Tiffany," I said, my voice weary, "you put yourself in this position by planning a wedding beyond your means and expecting me to pay for it." She switched tactics again, resorting to anger and threats. "You'll regret this. Everyone will know what a selfish, horrible person you are. They'll also know that you tried to manipulate your best friend into funding your extravagant wedding and refused to acknowledge years of debt." I countered, my patience finally wearing thin. That seemed to silence her, temporarily. But the fallout was just beginning. Yesterday, I started receiving messages from some of Tiffany's bridesmaids. Apparently, she'd been on a smear campaign, portraying me as the villain who was deliberately trying to sabotage her special day out of jealousy. One of them, Emily, who I've always liked, actually sent me screenshots of their group chat. The level of distortion and outright lies Tiffany was spreading was astonishing. It only strengthened my resolve. I wasn't backing down. So, this morning I followed through. I contacted a lawyer I'd found through a friend. He was professional and took my case seriously. We drafted a formal demand letter, clearly outlining the debt, the payment history, and the legal ramifications of non-payment. It was sent via registered mail to both Tiffany and Chad. The reaction was swift and predictable. A fresh wave of angry calls and texts. now with Chad joining in the chorus of indignation. Melanie posted a vague, passive-aggressive rant on her Instagram about fake friends. Then came the unexpected leverage. I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Chad's mother, Carol. She was surprisingly calm but firm. She explained that she and her husband were contributing a significant amount to the wedding. However, they had become aware of some financial disagreements, and after a rather tense conversation with Chad, they were putting their contribution on hold until all outstanding debts were resolved. She even thanked me for bringing this to their attention. Apparently, Chad hadn't been entirely forthcoming about his and Tiffany's financial situation. Suddenly, Tiffany's tone shifted dramatically. She called me, her voice trembling and laced with desperation. "Liam, please tell your lawyer to stop. I'll pay you back. I swear. Just give me some time." "Time, Tiffany? I gave you 7 years of time," I said, my voice flat. "The time for promises is long gone." I haven't heard from her directly since that call. Her social media is eerily quiet. Melanie's Instagram is still full of cryptic posts about betrayal. Chad's relationship status online remains stubbornly complicated. As for me, I feel a sense of weary relief. It wasn't easy standing my ground against someone who had been a significant part of my life for so long. There were moments I questioned myself, wondering if I was being too. But then I remembered the sheer audacity of her demand, the complete lack of respect for my financial stability, and the years of casual borrowing that had ballooned into a significant sum. Justice served? Yes, I believe so. It wasn't about sabotaging her wedding. It was about holding her accountable for her financial obligations and the entitled way she expected me to fund her life choices. The fact that her actions had unforeseen consequences for her wedding plans is a direct result of her own entitlement. The friendship is likely over, and honestly, I'm at peace with that. Some lessons are learned the hard way, and hopefully, Tiffany has learned one about financial responsibility and the true meaning of friendship, one that doesn't involve a 7-year, interest-free loan. I'm looking forward to rebuilding my savings and investing in friendships built on mutual respect, not financial exploitation.